The Echo of World War I, A Story of Humanity and Sacrifice. In a Europe pulsing with nationalism, alliances, and growing tensions, no one imagined that a single event would change the course of history forever. The First World War was much more than battles, weapons, and treaties. It was a period that tested the limits of the human spirit and demonstrated both its capacity for destruction and its resilience. And in this video, we invite you on an emotional journey to revisit this turbulent era. We will not only talk about great leaders, armies, or redrawn borders, but about the voices that echoed from the trenches, the silent tears in empty homes, and the human impact that still reverberates. A powerful reflection on sacrifice, pain, and the eternal search for peace. What does it mean to face the unimaginable? We ask as we delve into this story of courage and sacrifice. On June 28, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria was assassinated in Sarajevo. This event, though seemingly local, set off a chain reaction. The web of alliances between European nations came to life, drawing powers such as Germany, France, Russia, and the United Kingdom into a conflict that would soon engulf the world. The initial optimism was disturbing. Young men marched off to war with the illusion that they would soon be back. "We'll be back by Christmas," they said. But what awaited these generations was quite different, a scenario of unprecedented destruction and suffering. Once the war began, reality quickly set in. Young volunteers, who barely knew what it was like to carry a gun, were thrown straight into the horror of the trenches. These filthy, waterlogged, rat-infested spaces became the new home for millions of soldiers. Imagine living day after day with uncertainty. Constant explosions, the ominous sound of gunfire, the smell of war all around you. It was a hell built by human hands. Heartbreaking accounts from soldiers tell us about the daily ordeal. There were days when we would rather die than stay there. And as soldiers faced each other head-on, technological advancement brought weapons of mass destruction, such as poison gas and tanks, tools designed to maximize lethality. The glow of heroism was quickly replaced by the grim reality of large-scale destruction. While soldiers fought on the front lines, the impact was also felt far from the battlefield. Millions of women were forced to take on traditionally male jobs, supporting families while facing the anguish of waiting for news of loved ones. We hear an excerpt from a letter from a mother. "I pray every night that you will come back. But I don't know what is more painful, this silent waiting or imagining that you will never come back." In addition, refugees fled conflict areas, seeking shelter in neutral nations, while millions of families faced food and fuel shortages in their own countries. Among the bloodiest clashes of the war, two battles stand out: Verdun and the Somme. At Verdun, the French and Germans fought fiercely for almost a year. Every inch of advance meant hundreds of deaths. At the Somme in 1916, the first day of battle became the deadliest in British history, with almost 60,000 casualties in just a few hours. In these battles, human lives ceased to be numbers. They became almost irrelevant in the face of military objectives. But behind each loss, there was a story: parents who would never see their children, brothers separated forever. In total, it is estimated that more than 16 million people lost their lives during World War I. Soldiers were nothing more than cogs in a merciless war machine, and their stories reflect the pain of that reality. Many survivors would carry physical and emotional wounds for the rest of their lives. A young officer's diary depicts the psychological impact. "The silence of the night is even more terrifying because it reminds me of the screams I heard during the day." And even those who did not fight directly faced the war in their own homes, with families destroyed and communities divided by grief. The trauma transcended the trenches and spread as a permanent mark in the hearts of entire generations. In 1917, everything changed when the United States entered the conflict. With fresh resources and soldiers ready to fight, the Allies gained a significant advantage. At the same time, Russia was undergoing its own internal revolution, withdrawing from the war after years of devastating losses. Finally, on November 11, 1918, the guns fell silent. Germany signed the armistice, officially ending the conflict. But peace brought with it a bittersweet feeling. For nations and individuals, nothing would ever be the same again. In the post-war period, Europe was unrecognizable. Entire cities had been reduced to rubble, economies were collapsing, and an entire generation of young people, known as the lost generation, had been wiped out. Poets and writers who survived the war translated their pain into words, trying to make sense of the fool. Works such as Wilfred Owen's poems served as a cry of anguish and humanization for those who could no longer speak. World War I left not only physical destruction, but also profound social and cultural changes. The role of women in society was never the same again, and the lines between social classes began to blur as people faced common tragedies. Monuments and memorials were erected everywhere to ensure that the memory of those who fought would not be forgotten. Red poppies, symbols of blood spilled, became permanent markers of this global memory. Perhaps the greatest legacy of World War I was its lesson that humanity should strive for peace, not war. The creation of the League of Nations was an attempt to prevent something so devastating from happening again. Even so, the seeds of World War II had already been planted. As we reflect on the human and historical impact of World War I, we are reminded of the power of sacrifice and resilience. It is hard to imagine what those soldiers endured: the cold, the fear, the constant threat of death. But there is one thing we must never forget: the price of their lives bought lessons that we cannot allow to be forgotten. At the end of this video, we leave you with a simple request: remember those who came before. Remember those who sacrificed everything. Remember them so that we can build a future that is different from the past. After the armistice, the world faced a new challenge: to rebuild, heal the wounds and ensure that history would not repeat itself in future wars. The First World War transcended battle, shaping identities and unions, teaching the world the importance of preserving peace and humanity. The memory of the First World War teaches us that we must value peace, honoring those who gave their lives for a better future. The memory of the First World War teaches us to fight for peace, preserving the lessons of the past and honoring those who have passed. The First World War shaped a new understanding of solidarity and empathy, inspiring generations to work together for a more peaceful and just future. We end with powerful images: poppy fields, crosses and silent cemeteries, and the phrase that echoes to this day: lest we forget.